The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, you'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Hello folks, welcome back to Rutland for the first time in quite a while. We've only done 6 of these up to now, but by the end of this week I'll have more than doubled my money because I'm taking on 7. We're going to be here all week and we're going to see some cracking landmarks in this particular run. Look behind me there, you can see one of them, although that there is just one of quite a number of those things actually. It's a special type of tree which has been cut into a shape. I'm not quite sure what shape that is. We'll soon find out though. It's on Yew Tree Avenue in Clipsham. Clipsham, Kilp's farmstead. Welcome back to Rutland everybody. We're here for a run of 7 this time, a full week and weekend's worth. This run will cover a lot of villages between the A1 and Rutland Water, and just off the former is the beautiful little village of Clipsham. This lies in the northeastern corner of Rutland, not far from the Lincolnshire border. It is, unquestionably, one of the county's most typical limestone villages. Most of the stone used to build its quaint cottages came from Clipsham itself, after being quarried just south of the village. Clipsham stone can be found in many famous buildings across the country, such as King's College Chapel in Cambridge, the examination schools in Oxford, York Minster, and in parts of the Houses of Parliament. Even Windsor Castle can claim to have some too. Features here are few, but that's because it's a small place. However, Clipsham knows how to make the most of what it has. Northeast of the village is the outstanding Yew Tree Avenue, which was once the carriage drive to Clipsham Hall. The avenue stretches for 500 metres with 150 yew trees leading towards the hall itself, a Grade 2 listed mansion. Many of the trees are over 200 years old and trimmed into various shapes depicting birds and animals. We'll be sure to get a good look at that. And we'll also tell the tale of the local pub called the Olive Branch. Once described as a £140,000 wreck, it's now one of the very few in the UK to hold a Michelin star. Let's go. Life in Clipsham is always a pleasure. It's no wonder really. Despite being a rather small village with a population to match, it offers visitors some awesome beauty spots, a Michelin-starred restaurant, and bags of character. The village is quintessentially Rutland. The cottages here are built of stone with pretty gardens. Most of them are built with Clipsham stone, which was quarried just south of this village. Clipsham stone is essentially Middle and Upper Lincolnshire limestone, which formed around 170 million years ago. One of the old quarries is now a 111-hectare site of special scientific interest, and it's combined with Pickworth Great Wood. The latter is owned by the Forestry Commission and is one of the largest deciduous woods in the county. There is public access to Pickworth Great Wood from the village, but not to Clipsham Quarry. If there's a story that typifies Clipsham's sense of community, it's the origins of its pub. This is the Olive Branch, but to term this a pub is a bit like referring to Michelangelo's completion of the Sistine Chapel as a bit of painting and decorating. Back in 1999, the place was a mess. In fact, several news articles even titled it the £140,000 wreck. It had been empty for a couple of years and villagers were bereft of a local. That was until 3 men stepped in to make a difference: Ben Jones, Sean Hope and Marcus Welford. Together, the 3 financed half of the cost of purchasing and refurbishing it, but it wasn't until Clipsham's very own Dr. Colin Ashpole encouraged locals to raise the remaining capital that it could finally open. Less than 2 years later, the place had earned its Michelin star, and it's retained the accolade ever since. The Olive Branch has a rich history. It was originally 3 farm labourers' cottages and a cowshed that were combined in 1890. The cottages were built as a peace offering to the village after the Lord of the Manor closed down Clipsham's only alehouse. It was then a central part of the village community until it closed in 1997 and became the aforementioned wreck. Hope, Jones and Welford spent 6 weeks scrubbing, cleaning, decorating and renovating to bring the pub back to its former glory. They added luxury accommodation in 2003 to create this wonderful village inn with open fires and antique tables and chairs. Some journalists have now gone so far as to say that this is the best pub in Britain. Well, it's certainly a very popular pub, is the Olive Branch. I read quite a lot of online articles about it before coming here today, and it seems like it's one of the best, not just in Rutland, but also in the country. The trouble is, with popularity, that does sometimes lead to problems. You see, it's located on a pair of dangerous bends, and all around the pub there are signs that say, do not park on the bends, on the dangerous bends. It's got its own car park, which is behind me here, and there's also a separate one for Beach House as well. So if you are coming to the Olive Branch, don't park on the bend, people. St Mary's Church sits at the northern end of Clipsham. This is much older than its heavily restored external appearance would suggest. Pevsner places much of the building's origins as early as the Norman period, but does document additions and amendments from the 12th through to the 14th centuries. The church was built over several centuries using local stone, and yes, some of it was from Clipsham. The tower was built in around 1300 and has a spire with 3 stages. The roof is pyramid-shaped and has some turrets. The whole building was restored in 1858, and much of the stained glass here today dates from that time. The eastern window in the chapel has 15th century glass with pictures of medieval birds and coats of arms. Now here in the churchyard, you can see behind me, we've got a high hedgerow which has been quite nicely sculpted. Behind there is Clipsham Hall. Now I'm going to try my best to get a few shots of this, but it's kind of obscured. We definitely need to talk about this though, because it's important for the rest of the episode. Clipsham Hall is a Grade 2 listed country house which dates from around 1700. The actual date of its construction is a little unclear. It is known though that part of one of its walls goes back as far as 1582. Guess what it's made of? Yes indeed, Clipsham stone. It was owned for several generations by the Davenport Handley family until the death of Sir David Davenport Handley in 2014. At that point, it was put up for sale. Both the hall and the estate, which included Clipsham's ever-productive quarries, came into the Handley family in 1865. John Handley was the first owner. He was a banker and Member of Parliament for Newark. After his death, he left the estate to his nephew, William Davenport, who hailed from Cheshire. As a condition of the inheritance, William took the additional surname Handley, and that's how the Davenport Handley name came into being. This then is the ideal time to talk a bit more about the quarries, because the Davenport Handleys had a major say in the local stone industry. Clipsham stone is still as important today as it was very many centuries ago. The family's Medwell site is within Clipsham Parish. It's been active since 1903. In 2001 it came under the custodianship of Stamford Stone. It covers about 300 acres in total, including farmland and woodland, with about 30 acres currently used as an active quarry. Stamford Stone is currently extracting limestone from that site, which should provide 3 or 4 decades of work in total. Every year the site yields about 20,000 tonnes of masonry block and 75,000 tonnes of block stone for flooring. When extraction is complete in one particular area, the company then works with Natural England to replant and re-landscape the site, creating pastureland, hedgerows and woodland. Yew Tree Avenue is located to the north of the village. This is by far the most incredible landmark Clipsham has, in my opinion. Yew Tree Avenue is a unique collection of 150 yew trees, and most of them are over 200 years old. The avenue was once the carriage drive to Clipsham Hall. The best thing about this is we can explore this completely legally because it's open to the public. A small free car park gives year-round access to Yew Tree Avenue. The carriage drive, which is 500 yards long, is distinguished by its fancy topiary. That's a fancy word for cutting trees or hedgerows into shapes. A lot of these are shaped like birds or animals. Depending on events in the news, some of the trees have depicted other things, like for example a World War II Spitfire and even Neil Armstrong's first steps on the moon. In the 1950s, David Davenport Handley let a 999-year lease to the Forestry Commission on the understanding that they organise and maintain Yew Tree Avenue. Cuts to the commission meant that by 2010, annual trimming was neglected. However, now trimming has begun once again. The Clipsham Yew Tree Avenue Trust was established in 2018 and completed the first clipping of the trees in 2019. The Trust also funds new picnic benches and generally maintains the site for future generations. So this board tells you some great information about the yew trees and the people behind them. Take a look at this here. Amos Alexander was the estate's head forester who in 1870 began the trimming of the yew trees, and one of these trees has his initials carved into it. That's absolutely fantastic, isn't it? It's great that these people aren't forgotten. You know what? If every village had something like this, my job would be absolutely fantastic, wouldn't it? But I think in Clipsham it's one of the most special things I've ever come across. Time to move on to the next one, folks. Let's see what's down the road. With Clipsham in the books, it's time to move on. Let's head south now towards the village's near neighbour, a place we've already mentioned a couple of times in this very episode. See you there tomorrow, everybody. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.